So, man. Okay, cool. So, first thing I want to bring up, I brought this up on day one. I hope this is the last time I have to have this conversation. But it's become an issue a lot more this semester than it has in the past, so I'm bringing it up. When you guys email me, please be respectful. Okay? It has gotten to the point where people are frustrated. They shoot off an email that is like pretty rude. If you have to start a sentence with respectfully or with all due respect, or you're putting like a bunch of like question marks after, or you're saying something like, whatever, you're wrong, but it's a like stuff like that, probably not the most respectful thing, right? As far as I know, I've treated everybody with respect. I expect the same in return. The reason why I'm bringing this up, I've been getting a lot of emails like this lately, especially when it comes to deadlines. If you're emailing me and asking me for an extension on something, like yesterday, the remediation packets were due, right? I got a lot of emails asking for extensions with no like extenuating circumstance, no documentation of extenuating circumstance. Whether or not I give that extension is to my discretion, right? Especially if you don't have documentation. Like there's no reason your assignment should be late in the first place. None of the other instructors had students emailing them at 10 in the morning saying, oh, I forgot to do this. You know what I mean? Like I had a lot. And when I did not grant an extension until late at night, I got a few very disrespectful emails. So I thought about bringing it up last week because it was becoming an issue. I said, no, it's fine. I'm not going to make an announcement because it doesn't apply to everybody. And then I had a lot of emails come in yesterday that were not super respectful. So this has not been a problem with me in the 8 years that I've been teaching. For some reason this semester it is. So I'm bringing it up now. Please. Going forward, we have a month left. If you guys don't like me, that's okay. I would like you guys to like me, but if you don't, we can still be respectful towards one another, right? So, like I said, that's all I'm going to say about it. I just don't want to have that conversation again. If I keep getting disrespectful emails, I'm just going to write a write-up. All right. So, you guys do not need to log into Engagely. Normally, I record the class before this. I just forgot to. So, yeah, the 25th. I keep saying the 23rd to everybody. It's not the 23rd. It's the 25th. It got sent out. Of October. The like Friday follow-up or like weekly summer email that I sent out or whatever. It was the one sent on the 25th. Yeah. Okay. So, starting with special senses, which I believe is where we left off. There are 5 special senses. Okay. This diagram, for some reason, also has touch. Touch is not a special sense. Somebody has something. Okay. So, you have 5 special senses. You have taste, smell, hearing, equilibrium, and vision. I have no idea where my pen is. Or There we go. Okay. So 5 special senses: taste, smell, hearing, equilibrium, and vision. Okay, what makes these special senses is they have these things called sense organs. So they have specialized organs just devoted to that sense. Okay. I know I have the headphone in it so that I can record my voice with this. I can still hear you guys. I'm not listening to music. Promise. Okay. Now, starting with taste. Taste is going to happen when chemicals come into contact with your taste buds. Okay. Now, taste buds are going to be located around what are called papillae. So, if you stick your tongue out, right, you have a bunch of bumps on here. Those are not your taste buds. Those are your papillae. The bumps that you can see are your papillae. Taste buds are going to be like nestled down in between the papillae. You have 4 different types of papillae. You do not need to know the names. Now we talked about specific subtypes of receptors, right? If taste buds are responding to chemicals, what kind of receptor are they? Chemo. Chemoreceptors. Okay? Chemoreceptors. So what happens is, like, you know, like glitter paintings that you did in like elementary school or whatever, where you like took the glue and you like wrote your name and you sprinkle the glitter on it and you shake all the excess glitter off, right? That's basically how taste works. Okay. The chemicals from the food you're eating come into the saliva. Okay. They get stuck in that saliva, and that saliva is going to hold it on top of those taste buds. Okay. And those taste buds are going to interpret those chemicals. And it is going to send the signal down one of 3 cranial nerves. Okay. So the 3 cranial nerves that are going to be responsible for interpreting taste. This board has been shocking me all day. Real sick of it. Okay. So the 3 cranial nerves involved in taste: the facial nerve, the glossopharyngeal nerve, and the vagus nerve. Okay. So 7, 9, and 10. These are going to be stimulated depending on where on the tongue those taste buds are. All right. Now we have 5 primary tastes. We have salty, sweet, sour, bitter, and umami, which is like a meaty taste. So that's all you guys need to know about taste. Do you guys have any questions about that? Nope. You want me to go back? How many types of papillae can be found on the tongue? 4. Do you guys need to know the names of them? No. Nope. Okay. Your book goes into details about the different types. They are named based on their shapes. You guys don't need to know. One less thing to worry about. Oh, because I normally have my mouse. And like I feel like it's not this difficult when I do recording. That's why. Okay. Smell. Don't worry about these bonus questions. Okay. These bonus questions are both things that we covered last semester that we did not end up covering this semester. Okay. If you don't know the answer to those, that's fine. So looking at the sense of smell. All right. What is the sense of smell called? Starts with an O. Olfaction. Okay. So it makes sense that smell receptors are going to stimulate your olfactory nerve, aka cranial nerve number 1. Now, olfactory receptors are quick to fatigue, meaning you spray perfume on, right? You stop noticing the perfume pretty quickly. But if you go near other people, they'll pick up on it pretty quickly, right? So you kind of get acclimated to smells really quickly. Other thing about it, like if you were in a really sneaky room, when you step out of that sneaky room, the smell doesn't stick with you. Typically, unless you've like stepped in something. So. Now the way that smell works, it's really cool. So smell is also going to be controlled by chemical receptors, which are what? Okay, but what type of receptors detect chemicals? Chemoreceptors. Okay, so these are also a type of chemoreceptors. Right? Now, it's like telling an inside joke, right? Only the receptor that is programmed for that stimulus is going to pick up on that stimulus. I like this diagram because it shows you with the different colors. Okay, so in your nose, you have different receptors for different odor molecules. What happens is when those odor molecules attach to their receptors, they then get sorted into these different, like, sorting centers. Okay? They are called glomeruli, or glomerulus is singular glomeruli. So basically what happens is it does like this pre-sorting process. It then sends that signal up your olfactory bulb to your olfactory cortex. Okay, so for the fill in the blanks, smell works as follows. Incoming odor molecules bind to the cilia in the nose and form the ends of olfactory receptor cells. This stimulates an impulse along nerve fibers. The fibers join with other neurons in the olfactory bulbs. Intermediate neurons called glomeruli, so they're called glomerulus, glomeruli. Okay, glomerulus is singular, glomeruli is plural. Okay, either one works. Are going to partially process those impulses. So what they do is they start this like pre-sorting. It is then going to send those signals up that olfactory nerve to your primary olfactory cortex in the brain. Once it reaches the brain, it then can get carried on to other areas in the brain for further processing. So 3 is glomeruli or glomerulus. Glomerulus single, I the plural. 4 is going to be olfactory cortex, primary olfactory cortex. Okay. They like the thermostat like jacked up to like 85. I sent an email about it on Friday because like I was dying when I came in to observe, and nobody had a key to it. Okay. So, hearing. Ears are providing for hearing, but they're also very important for balance, aka equilibrium. Okay, so that's why like sometimes when you get ear infection, you get this. You have 3 sections to your ear. You have your outer ear, your middle ear, and your inner ear. We're going to talk about all of the sections in depth. Now, your outer ear is going to consist of 2 parts. First one, you have your auricle, aka your pinna. Okay, this is the visible part of your ear. So this is the stuff that you pierce and everything. Okay. The auricle is going to be shaped like a funnel. The whole point of it is to funnel sound waves down into your auditory canal, aka your ear canal. The auditory canal is then going to take those sound waves down to your eardrum, which is also called your tympanic membrane. Okay, we'll get to the tympanic membrane next slide. Now, lining your ear canal, so your auditory canal, we have a specific type of gland. We talked about it in chapter 6. Does anybody remember it? Starts with a C. Ceruminous. Ceruminous glands. Okay. Ceruminous glands secrete earwax. Earwax is also called cerumen. Okay. Now, your tympanic membrane, aka your eardrum, this is going to be the border between your outer ear and your middle ear. So, first fill in the blank, tympanic membrane, aka eardrum. What happens is the sound waves are going to come in and they are going to cause that tympanic membrane to vibrate. All right? That tympanic membrane is then going to be attached to 3 bones, right? The 3 smallest bones in your body. These are called your auditory ossicles. They're named based on their shape. So you have your malleus, which is your hammer, your incus, which is your anvil, and your stapes, which is the stirrup. They kind of look like it, very broadly. That's just how they read. Okay? So the sound waves are going to go up your malleus, back down your incus, and then to your stapes. Okay? Your stapes covers something called your oval window. And that is what's going to lead to your inner ear, which is the next thing we're going to talk about. Now, your tympanic membrane, right? It's getting pushed up. Think about it like a balloon. What happens when you squeeze a balloon too hard? Pops. You need something to get rid of that pressure. Okay? So in order to dispel that pressure, you have what's called your auditory / eustachian tube. Okay? So that auditory / eustachian tube, that is going to equalize the pressure on either side of that tympanic membrane and keep your ear from popping. It leads down from your middle ear down into your throat, so your nasopharynx. Now, in your eustachian tube, it is very common to get ear infections here because you have bacteria that can climb up from your throat getting in. It is particularly common in children for 2 reasons. Okay. Firstly, in children, right, their skulls are shorter, which means that their eustachian tube tends to be more shallow, like angled like this. Adults, on the other hand, kind of have more of like a sharp angle, right? Because our skulls are longer. The other thing, kids' heads are smaller, so their eustachian tubes are more narrow. Whereas in adults, it's going to be wider. Okay? So when you get bacteria coming up from your throat into that eustachian tube, in kids, it gets stuck. In adults, we kind of have gravity helping us out, and it's easier for it to come out. In kids, like I said, it gets stuck and it grows. Okay? And it spreads up that eustachian tube. That is why ear infections are really common in kids. So, what's the question? What kind of infection is common here? What population? So on and so forth. Otitis media, middle ear infection, common in children, caused by bacteria or viruses, leading to fluid buildup and inflammation. Okay. So, a lot of the time it is from an infection in your throat that gets into the ear. Not necessarily due to bad hygiene or anything like that, but it is important to teach like ear hygiene. But yeah. I have one in my car. I just didn't think that like I would need a neck band in November. So, thank you. I've got my own band. It's fine. Good. So that oval window, right? The oval window is going to mark the start of our inner ear. Okay. Another word for the inner ear, the bony labyrinth. Oh, length. Yeah. So inside of your bony labyrinth, you have this fluid that is called perilymph. Okay. So perilymph is going to fill up that bony labyrinth. All right. We have 3 structures in our inner ears. We have our semicircular canals, our vestibule, and our cochlea. We're going to talk about all of these like more in depth, but just to give you like an overview. Your semicircular canals, these are going to be responsible for maintenance of balance. There are these 3 like archways that are at 90 degrees from one another. Your vestibule is like what I consider like the entryway to the inner ear. It's going to be this structure here. And then your cochlea is going to be this snail shell-like structure here. Now remember when we learned cranial nerves, right? Cranial nerve number 8, the vestibulocochlear nerve. I was like, it's not going to make sense to you guys right now, but like when we get to the ear, we're going to know where the name vestibulocochlear nerve comes from. Vestibulocochlear nerve. Okay. Cochlea does hearing, vestibule does balance. Your vestibulocochlear nerve is responsible for hearing and balance. So, looking inside of our cochlea. Okay, we're going to start with hearing, then we'll do balance. Inside of our cochlea, we have something called our cochlear duct. It's basically just like another tube inside the cochlea. All right. And then at the very bottom of that cochlear duct, we have something called our organ of Corti. The organ of Corti is important because it is our hearing sense organ. So, cochlear duct inside the cochlea, organ of Corti, hearing sense organ. Now, the way that hearing works, okay? Oh, wait, I lied. How many sections of the ear are there? 3. True or false? The eardrum in the round window. False. Now, the way that hearing works. Okay, I already told you, you have the outermost part of your ear, right? Your auricle that is going to funnel these sound waves down your ear canal. Okay? When they reach your tympanic membrane, they're going to start to bang on your tympanic membrane. Your tympanic membrane is then going to cause this bone to vibrate. What is the first one called? Starts with an M. Malleus, which bangs on the incus, which bangs on stapes. Okay? That stapes is then going to start to bang on the oval window. Okay? The oval window starts to shake, and it is going to shake the fluid that is inside of your bony labyrinth. Does anybody remember what this fluid is called? Perilymph. Perilymph. Okay? Now that perilymph is going to start to shake as well. And what it's going to do, it's going to pull on these things called hair cells. And when they pull open, that is what picks up on the frequency. Okay? Those hair cells are going to be responding to that mechanical stimulation of the vibrating of the perilymbs. Now, just like with our air balloon, right? We squeeze it, it's going to pop. So we have a way to dispel that pressure. Same thing with a water balloon. We have a water balloon and we squeeze it too hard, it's going to pop. So we need a way to get rid of that pressure. So we have this thing called a round window. So the round window is different than your oval window. Okay. As your perilymph is vibrating and it's going down through here, your round window is going to reflexively like bend in response to those vibrations of the perilymph to try and get rid of that excess pressure so that you don't end up popping that part. So basically, in short, sound happens because of vibration. Okay? That's why the only word I have filled out on there for you is vibrate. Now, just for fun, your brain has, or your body has what's called a tonotopic organization. So the way that we interpret sound is where that like vibration falls within that cochlea. So different frequencies fall in different parts of the cochlea. So you can have a couple different types of hearing loss. So a lot of people ask me about cochlear implants. Cochlear implants are going to be a very specific type of hearing loss. So it's when this cochlea is damaged, or I guess like these auditory ossicles could be. But basically, it's bypassing it. Okay? You can also have conductive hearing loss, which is when you have something stuck inside your ear that is blocking the transmission of those sound waves. So we've talked about cerumen impaction, right? Where earwax fills up and you can't hear it or hear things because of that earwax blocking those sound waves, right? Kids put crayons in their ears. That blocks sound waves. When you're using earplugs, right, during exams, those are conductive hearing loss, right? Because you are blocking those sound waves. Now looking at balance, okay? We have two different parts of our inner ear that are going to contribute to balance, okay? We have our vestibule and we have our semicircular canals, okay? The semicircular canals are lying at right angles to one another, which is really cool because like in math, right, you have three axes. You have your x-axis, your y-axis, and your z-axis, right? That give you like a 3D representation of space. Your body does it on its own. Nobody told it to come up with three axes. So I think it's really cool. At the tip of each of these semicircular canals, okay, you have this like bulb. That bulb is going to be called an ampulla. That ampulla is going to be involved in interpreting movement in that 3D space. So as I'm walking forward and back, okay, the ampulla that's walking forward and back is picking up on it. If I was going to walk side to side, a different ampulla would be picking up on that. I'm jumping up and down, different ampulla picking up on that. Okay, so that's why we have those three semicircular canals at right angles. Okay, and then you have a very specific structure at the end of each of those semicircular canals picking up on that. Now, inside of your vestibule, so that entryway, we have two other sense organs. We have our auricle and our saccule. So your semicircular canals and your auricle and saccule are going to be responsible for different aspects of detecting movement. Or, yeah, I guess movement. Equilibrium, balance, whatever. Okay? So your semicircular canals are going to be detecting when you're moving around. So if I'm walking around, my semicircular canals are detect, contributing to interpreting that. Okay? Your auricle and your saccule, on the other hand, that is going to be when you're driving a car. So that's something called static equilibrium. I am not physically moving, but I am being moved. Okay? I can still tell that I am moving when I am driving a car, even though I am not the thing that is walking. Does that make sense? Okay. So semicircular canals, speed and direction of head movement. Okay. Vertical and sacral. They're detecting when your body is moving, but your head is not like moving around. Okay. So static equilibrium, the sense of acceleration is how I would define it. So it's called static equilibrium. Now for labeling, this is what semicircular canals look like. I think it's just really cool graphic. Bless you. Like the 3D representations based. So. Now for labeling. Okay. This outermost visible part of your ear, what is this called? What is it? Hannah, what's the other word? Auricle. Auricle. Okay, so the auricle / pinna, right? That is going to funnel sound waves down into this thing here. What is this called? Auditory canal. Can I also call it my auditory tube? This is your auditory tube. Which one? What? This tube right here is your auditory tube, and there's another word for it that we'll get to in a second. Okay? So, sound waves come in. Auricle / pinna funnels them down into your auditory canal. Your auditory canal brings them down to this structure here. What is this structure called? Tympanic membrane. AKA your eardrum. The tympanic membrane is going to be the like marker between your outer ear and your middle ear, right? So once you get down to your tympanic membrane, we're getting into the middle ear, so I'm going to switch colors to green. It starts to vibrate first on this bone, which is the malleus. The malleus hits what? Incus. The incus hits stapes. The three of these are together called. I can't talk it, but I'll leave it up for you guys. So they are called your auditory ossicles. I don't know why. Okay. Okay. Auditory ossicles. Okay. Your middle ear, you have this structure here to dispel that pressure. I already said it's called the auditory canal. What's the other word for it? Or sorry, auditory tube. What's the other word for it? Eustachian. Eustachian. So EU and U. Stage. And okay. Eustachian tube. That's a C. Your eustachian tube. Okay. Now your stapes is going to cover, or your stapes. I would say stapes. I'm probably wrong. Okay. Your stapes is going to cover this structure here. It's a window. Which window is it? Oval. Oval. And our oval window is going to lead us into our inner ear. Okay, so green is going to be middle. So we have three parts to our bony labyrinth, aka our inner ear. These first three archways that are at 90-degree angles from one another, what are they called? So the three archways that are 90 degrees from one another. This was not a hard word to say. So semicircular canals. Okay. Semicircular canals, are they involved in hearing or in balance? Balance. This middle area here, that like entryway area, starts with a V. Vestibule is involved in what? Balance. Also involved in balance. Okay. Lastly, we have our snail shell here. What is the snail shell called? Cochlea. Cochlea is involved in what? Hearing. Okay. And last but not least, you have your nerve here. That is going to be your cochlear nerve. Well, so it's the vestibular cochlear nerve, but your book has it labeled as the cochlear nerve for some reason in this specific diagram. So I just left it as that. So as for continuity, I'll just put cochlear nerve. But technically, you have two branches of your vestibular cochlear nerve. One is your cochlear nerve, which goes to your cochlea. One is your vestibular nerve, which goes to your vestibule. I was just about to do it. And so this guy right here, that's going to dispel the rest of the pressure, that is your round window. I don't have like a good arrow spot to put it within the inner ear. Yeah. He's just gonna float over here. Okay. So I did take a picture of this. I just have to figure out how to like get it from the screen to like my computer. But yeah. Worst case scenario, I'll draw it out and then I'll send it to you guys. Okay. What part of the ear holds the cochlea? Inner. The cochlea and the organ and cordia are responsible for what? Hearing. So next, looking at the eyes, the rest of chapter 12 is focused on the eyes. Okay. So starting with your eyebrows. Everybody should know where your eyebrows are, right? So eyebrows. Eyebrows mainly contribute to facial expressions. Okay. They aid in nonverbal communication. Fancy way of saying that. They're also going to help keep perspiration out of the eye to a certain extent and shield the eye from light. But their main function is to contribute to nonverbal communication. Next, we have our eyelids, aka our palpebrae. We talked about the specific muscle that forms your eyelids. It's round, goes around your eyes, closes them. I remember what it is. Starts with an O. Oculi, but what's the first word? Orbicularis. Orbicularis oculi. We just took this exam 2 weeks ago, guys. So, orbicularis oculi. Okay? That's going to be responsible for opening and closing those eyelids. Now, if your eyelids are called your palpebrae, there's a space between them called your palpebral fissure. Okay? This is the space between your eyelids. It's kind of hard to see, like from far away, but what the line is trying to draw is that space. Okay? Now, running along the bottom of your eyelid here, okay? Or your bottom eyelid here. You have what are called tarsal glands. Have you guys ever done sides?
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen anybody that got the side? Yeah. So what it is these tarsal glands getting inflamed. Okay? So the tarsal glands are going to be found at the thickened edge of the eyelid. Right? Next we have eyelashes, which are going to be the hairs that keep the debris out. Again, everybody knows your eyelashes are right. So they put mascara on. Okay. And lastly, we have conjunctiva. Now this is pointing to the white part of your eye. Your conjunctiva is not the white part of your eye. Okay? The conjunctiva is a clear coating that covers the eye. So, conjunctivitis. Anybody know what conjunctivitis is? Pink eye. Conjunctivitis is inflammation of this conjunctiva. It is inflammation of that clear membrane that covers the eye. We'll talk about conjunctivitis in a second. We'll also go through the labeling together. Okay. Next, looking at your lacrimal apparatus. Anytime you see lacrimal, think tears. Okay? Lacrimal just means tears. There are only two things that you guys need to know from this diagram. First one is going to be your lacrimal gland, which is this guy up here. Okay? Your lacrimal gland is going to be producing those tears. The tears are going to come down and they're going to wash over your eye. Okay? And it is going to drain into what is called your nasolacrimal duct. What does naso mean? Nose. Okay? So the nasolacrimal duct drains into your nose. That is why when you are crying, like you're getting those ugly crying going, your nose is all like runny and gross. It's because tears drain down through your nasolacrimal duct. So why do you get a runny nose when you cry? Because tears drain to the nasolacrimal duct. Now for the labeling, there's a couple things that I accidentally left on here that you guys do not need. Where's so you only need to include what I like rated. Okay. First thing, what is this fuzzy guy? Eyebrows. This gland guy here, lacrimal gland. Okay. What are your eyelids called? Starts with a P. Palpebrae. The space in between your eyelids is what? Palpebral fissure. Palpebral fissure. Okay. These little hairs that stick off the ends of your eyelids. So you put mascara on. The hairs. Eyelashes. Okay. In this thick part here on the edge of the eyelids, that is where you're gonna find what? Tarsal glands. Okay. This duct here that drains from your eye to your nose. Nasolacrimal duct. Okay. And last thing, the clear coating of your eye is called what? Conjunctiva. You guys do not need to know medial or lateral canthus. You don't need to know lacrimal duct, and you don't need to know lacrimal canals. Conjunctiva. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and do break. So we'll take a break for 10 minutes. So be back at 7:30. Okay. And then we'll continue.